Scott Anderson, and first off, I want to start with, on behalf of myself and the Governor's Cup Regatta Committee, thank you for the sponsorship donation for our event. Without sponsorships, these events don't happen, and it costs a lot to put these things on. I've been involved with the event since '95, and then we had like a 10-year hiatus, and I was approached about putting a committee together to bring it back, which we did last year. If anybody was out there, it was like 97 degrees and awful windy. We didn't get much done on Saturday, but Sunday we ran Saturdays, heats, and Sundays, and it was a successful event. The really cool part about having it back, the racers that had been to our community before, this has always been one of their favorite race sites. Of all the races we go to across the country, there's only us and one other race site actually even has docks to put the boats in. But the race had been here before, had nothing but compliments and good things to say about how much the park has changed. West Bank Road, they remember Carterville, and now it looks like a little Key West. All the things that's been done on the downtown Main Street, they raved about that. So it was a really good event. They were looking forward to coming back. Let's see, year before last, I went to American Powerboat Association National Meeting and put in a bid to host a title event, and we were actually chosen after a 10-year hiatus. We got chosen to host a title event, which is this year. It's the Eastern Divisional Championships, and there's only 2 title events on this side of the Mississippi every year. And then I went to the national meeting again back in January, and we got chosen to host a title event again for 27. So pretty big deal. I didn't know what it was, how it went about. When I wanted to get in front of everybody, which obviously I'm nervous. When I saw the inboard commission that was going to be voting on whether we get the title events or not, I looked around the big table. Out of the 20 people there, 18 of them had raced here before, so that probably was a good feather in our cap. So we're looking forward to a good year again this year, especially the title event. We should have a good boat count, and it's really kind of weird because usually the title events are later in the season. So our first race is in June, first weekend of June in Decatur, Illinois. They are the Nationals, and 2 weeks later, hopefully most of the same boats will be here for the Eastern Divisional. So we're expecting at least 60 boats, if not more. So it should be a good weekend. Hopefully Mother Nature treats us a little better this year. That's kind of it for me. I'll turn it over to my teammate and friend Tony. He's been racing for this year, 46th year.
46 years this year.
So he's been about everywhere in the country, so he has a lot of knowledge. So,
Well, thank you. Good morning. As Scott said, I'm Tony Black. This is my 46th year driving hydroplanes. I've driven in every class from the smallest to the next to the tallest. So from T-boats clear up to Grand Prix, which are the big 1,400 horsepower blown alcohol big blocks. I'm fortunate enough to drive for Tom Newman, who is Team Newman. Scott is my co-driver, and I couldn't ask for a better teammate and a backup driver. Together, we've done pretty well together over the last 7-8 years. I just want to say how fortunate you guys are to be a part of this community. I've raced all over the continental United States and clear up into Canada, up in Quebec. You have a crown jewel right here. Most of the racers that we race with and against throughout the year love to come to Salina. And hopefully, like Scott said, we'll have some of the best in the United States and clear up into Canada will come here this year to race, because this venue is very unique and we are treated like kings when we come here. So this is always one of the events that everybody circles on their schedule of races that they want to attend. So please feel fortunate that you have a venue such as this and a community that is engaged as much as what you guys have here, because this is certainly one of our premier races that we always want to attend. And I'm fortunate enough with Team Newman to drive not only one boat, but 2. Mr. Newman owns 2 of them. So this year you'll see us out there with a couple of boats competing, and it's a slugfest at times. So not only do we also have the 2 team boats that we run, but we also run the inboard APBA driving school. And to speak to that for just a minute, if any of you ever aspire to take a ride in a hydroplane, we can make that happen. Scott is a vital part of the driving school. Behind the scenes, he's one of the ones that's always working to prepare the boats and gas them up and get them ready to go. I am the person that would be your instructor. So over my years of tenure doing that, I've been, for me, it's a way to give back to the sport that I'm so passionate about. And when you see the look of these students that come out of these boats, having never been in one before, it's for me, that pays it forward for me to be able to do that.
That picture you see, that's one of our school boats. We have 3 of them. They're all retired race boats, all former national champions with V8. So if you want to drive one, you can come to the school and these will all run over 100 mile an hour.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool deal if you've never gone that fast in a boat. They're go-karts on wheels. So again, I just want to thank you guys for being engaged with the community and giving us a place to come and play with our toys. But not only that, just it's you people. It's coming to Salina and see how we're treated in this community. You make us feel like rock stars, and thank you very much for that.
Anybody have questions?
What are the dates on that?
June 20th and 21st.
And I believe it is a free event, so,
Yeah, free.
and with all the improvements that have been around the lake, I started here in '95 and I haven't missed a year since then. It's a really cool deal to be in Salina, Ohio.
Also, which is good for the area, there's going to be five races, what we call Region 6. 3 races here in Ohio, 1 in Michigan, 1 in Decatur, Illinois. They're not really Region 6, but we count them as part of ours. And it's kind of funny, we go to a race now, we'll have 12 to 15 of the people there are former driving school students that they get in the boat. And now this year, Indian Lake, for the first time ever, is having a hydroplane race, and that's, I think, the 3rd weekend.
Third weekend in August.
So that'll be, I mean, that's just another, like, feather in Ohio's cap, so that'd be pretty cool as well, because that'll be a great venue.
You have a young lady right here.
Really? I've seen the races before, and I'm curious, what sort of safety equipment do you have on in there?
Okay, so safety equipment, obviously I tell everybody if you got a nickel head, buy a nickel helmet. Expensive helmets, we have air masks that we use, so we're on, it's ambient air until the mask gets wet. And it's the same mask that a fighter pilot would wear, but it's been retrofitted for scuba. So if, for instance, one of the boats would happen to go upside down, we have a half an hour's worth of air. And the theory behind that is just relax, take your time, get yourself out. When you panic, that's when bad things happen. So not only do we have the air systems, we have fire systems, which is, it's a wet system. I pull a handle if I have a fire, and it extinguishes the fire. A driving uniform, that is it's a fire flame retardant uniform, life jacket, driving shoes, driving gloves. In the cockpit, when you're out there racing, especially in an enclosed cockpit, it gets about 135 degrees. So if you can imagine riding a Brahma bull for 5 miles in 135 degree temperature, when you get done running a heat of racing, you're ready to come out and get a cold glass of water. It's very violent, very hot. So other than that, it's use your head, drive your foot, not with your head.
If you want to take it to school, you can see what it's like.
Okay, so that's a national modified hydroplane. It's 368 cubic inch small block Chevy, highly modified. Basically, it's a NASCAR motor in a boat, about 840 horsepower. It's a 160 mile an hour boat any day of the week. Propellers, we have an array of propellers. I think we have 10 propellers that we use, anywhere from a 3-blade propeller up to a 5-blade propeller that one propeller, we have over $10,000 in just that one propeller. They're all stainless steel cleaver type propellers. The unique thing about a propeller on a race boat, and you'll see that big long rooster tail, that's because if you run a 2-blade propeller, only one blade of that propeller is in the water. The prop, actually the center line on the prop is the water line on the prop. The other 2 ears are expelling the water. That's why you see the big rooster tail. And it runs on about that much of the back of the sponsons that looks like canoes. So that's why they call them a 3-point hydroplane. It's only on those 3 points, and again, only one ear of that propeller's in the water at a time. RPM, will run anywhere from 7,800 RPM to 8,200 RPM. The motor's capable of twisting 9,000 RPM all day long, but you want to keep it in the power band where the camshaft and everything is designed to make maximum pull at that RPM range.
And Tom doesn't like to pay to rebuild motors.
Yeah, they get expensive. When you start at 8,000 RPM, a race motor, they will literally, if you break something in the motor, they'll eat themselves alive at that RPM.
You have like superchargers on it? Or?
No, we just, in the boats that Mr. Newman owns, they're just carbureted motor, normally aspirated motors, just air fuel mixture. We're running 114 octane race fuel. It's about $14 a gallon, so in a heat of racing, we'll run through about 8 gallons of fuel. So it's a little pricey to run a heat of racing. On the average, when we're traveling, not only do we have a motorhome, we're pulling 2 boats, one with the motorhome, one with the truck that we have out front, and it costs Mr. Newman on average about $3,000 to $5,000 a weekend to race. It's the travel. When you take 5 or 6 people and hotel rooms and fuel with motorhomes and everything else, and then tack on race entry fees and fuel fees, etc. It's expensive toys.
You don't make a lot of money, you don't make any money doing it. So we pay, it used to be prize money, but if you pay, let's say 4 spots, it's usually the same 4 teams always win because it's the higher funded teams. So most race sites, including us, we pay what we call tow money. If you made the effort to make it there, we're going to pay you something because even the low budget teams spent money to get there and put on a show. So like when we go to Florida, we leave Ohio, go to Florida, all the time down, all the time back, hotels, meals, and then race expenses. So tow money rate saves it, doesn't matter if you won or lost, but at the end of that weekend, they give Mr. Newman a check for $200. That didn't pay for the fuel to get us out of Ohio, so.
Again, you have to be very passionate about the sport. It's the most, I've raced go-karts. I had an uncle that raced in a NASCAR series for 47 years. I had a brother-in-law that drag raced. This is the secret sport. It's not well known, but it is a very family-oriented sport. Both my daughters have grown up racing hydroplanes. 2008, my youngest daughter was Rookie of the Year for the United States. She raced right out here on this water, and I raced against her with my boat, stepped her up into a bigger class, and she raced right beside me out here on this water. You can't put a price on what that does to a dad looking over and seeing his kid racing with him on the water. That's neat stuff. So it is a very family-oriented, driven sport. And I tell you, I am not a rich man, but I am rich with friends, and it's because of boat racing. And I have friends all over the world, and it's all because of boat racing. So
Who won
it's
the race between you and your daughter?
only because I had a bigger, faster boat. But she was 100 pounds lighter, and she listened. So.
Pre-race rituals, superstitions, rabbit hoods.
No, when I first started racing, I used to get excited and nervous about it. Anymore, it's just you got a job to do. Go out and do the best that you can do. Again, I've always prided myself on racing with my head and not with my foot. You can get yourself in trouble when you don't pay attention to what the boats are telling you, and they will all talk to you. You just have to be smart enough to listen to what the information the boat's giving you. So it's just,
AC/DC, what do you listen to right before the race?
you know, I really don't think that I have any pre-race rituals. Kiss my wife goodbye and good luck, or Scott if he's happened to be there. But you know, one of the things that, and we pride ourselves with Team Newman, we always carry ourselves. We like to project an image. We like to be professional in what we do, and Tom has a really unique saying. Even though I've won 3 national championships driving for Mr. Newman, but his adage is, as long as we have a good, fun weekend and we're safe, that's all that matters. We race for U.S. fun, not U.S. one. So if any of you want to take a look, that's a national championship ring. That's one of 6 that I own. Last year, we were on target to win a 7th national championship. Mr. Newman had some medical issues, so we didn't get to compete the last 3 races of last year. We still finished 2nd in the nation. So that's an attest to how well funded, how well prepared this team is, and we like to think that we're one of the leaders across the country, our performance-wise, how we not only perform on the race course, but how we carry ourselves. We like to think that we're diplomats for the sport. That's one of the reasons why we are here today, to thank you guys for being a part of this community and putting funds and effort and time into this event.
Scott's a friend of mine, so I have to ask this. You said he's a backup driver?
Yes, ma'am.
He doesn't know how to get it in to go in the first gear? He can only back up.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, Scott's been fortunate enough to now be part of the team where he has won 2 national championships driving. So, and trust me, I have friends that I've raced with for 46 years that don't have any of these. So it's a very hard thing to do, because not only do you, when you're racing for points, you not only worry about your performance, but everybody else's, because you need them to perform in order to be able to be out there. We have to have 3 boats on the water to be able to even get points. So, like I said, you not only have to worry about your performance, but other teams as well, to be able to garner the points to put you in the position to win a national championship. So over the years, I've won many, many titles. Eastern Divisionals, National Championships, Summer Nationals, North American Championships. You know, I've got a pretty good amount of trophies over the years, but these are my trophies. So, but again, thank you guys for having us out here. Oh, I'm sorry, you got one over here?
Down at East Liberty, close to the Honda plant. That's where Tom's little ranch and race shop is at. And it's kind of, since I've been traveling with the team, we go down to the race shop, we got the boats hooked up, we're loading up, getting ready to take off, and I'm like a little kid in the candy store. I said, we're going racing, and Tom always says, we're making memories, and I wasn't paying attention. And I finally realized just a couple years ago that I've been to a place in the country I never would have been, met a lot of people I never would have met, and I don't remember how I did that weekend racing, but I remember all the people, so it really is special.
It's, again, I'm not a rich man, but I'm rich with friends, and it's because of meeting people all over the country racing, and it's a unique deal.
On days when you're racing, how does your speed compare if the lake or if the water is relatively smooth versus fairly choppy? How much of a difference in speed? And the second question, with all the years that you've been racing, have you ever had any bad spills?
Yeah, I've had a few. I guess my worst deal was in 1997, was racing in southern Ohio down at Rocky Fork Lake, and I was in a methanol fire. My boat was a 2.5 liter modified. We ran a fuel-injected Pontiac Fiero motor on methanol. And with methanol, you can't see the flame. Right as I was coming down the front straightaway at Rocky Fork, had just taken the start of the race, went into the corner with 2 other racers, and realized that I was on fire. At first I thought I had a water line break because my back was getting burned, and then realized that I didn't have any water up in the cockpit with me, that I had a fire. So by the time I shut the boat off, slowed down, that was the worst mistake, because now all that heat and everything, instead of going behind me, was coming into the cockpit. It melted the back of the cockpit, melted the driving uniform into my shoulders. I was in the boat for over 3 minutes while it was on fire, and I was unconscious. Another racer pulled me out of the boat and threw me in the water. I came to when I was in the back of the ambulance being transported on the way to the hospital. I had a medic doing chest compressions on me and saying, "We got to get this guy some air. He's not going to make it." That's when I came to. We got in the hospital, in the room. My wife finally made her way to the hospital and came in the room and she said, "That's it, you're done boat racing." Three weeks later, I was up in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and was driving for a friend of mine. My back was still bandaged up, and I won that weekend. So I realized that it wasn't a fluke. It was a fluke. It was just, and afterwards we found out what it was on fuel injection, because in methanol, it's a circulatory system. So you always pump more fuel in than the engine will ever demand. And what it doesn't take going into the motor, it bypasses, it puts it back into the fuel tank. A return line going back into the fuel tank had broken. So instead of putting fuel back in the tank, it pumped the bottom of the boat full of methanol. So I've never blown a boat over. I have flat spun them. I have cartwheeled them where it sticks in and kind of flops around. I've backed it into the boat, just basically did a flat spin and backed into the water, come out of the hole, and made it around. I was over in Cambridge, Maryland, and you race around a big point. I came around the point to bring the boat back into the pit area, and it sunk about 80 feet from the dock. And we were worried because we had borrowed a propeller from a competitor that we were going to tear up the propeller on the bottom of the water, or we thought it was rock, it was sand. Get out of the boat, and we're carrying the boat. Basically, 3 of us were carrying the boat up. And as you notice, I'm not real tall. So one of our buddies was in the water with us, helping us get the boat up to where we could get the slings on it to lift it out of the water. And he had noticed there was a phone book floating in the cockpit. And he said, "What the heck is that?" And I said, "Well, it's my booster seat. I stole it from the hotel." So, that's what I'm saying when we make memories. These things you never forget. But I've been fortunate enough, never really been hurt very bad racing boats. And like I said, you just drive with your head and not with your foot, because that pedal works 2 ways, and you can get yourself in trouble as well as keep yourself out of trouble.
These other first questions about the wind and waves, how they affect you guys. You got a first question?
Okay, so water conditions. Sometimes when the water is rough, you have to run the boat a little harder to get it to fly over all that slop. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, and you're constantly, if you're paying attention to the boat, you're constantly massaging the accelerator pedal to either pick it up or settle it down. We also have canard wings on the boat, and we can put more air under the boat to get it to fly, or take air off of it and settle the nose down. And you're driving a ballerina. It's a balancing act. So sometimes you don't run as hard as you need to, or as hard as you want to, just because you save the equipment, or other times you run a little harder to keep it up out of the slop and not beat yourself to death.
Is there a transmission involved in the?
No, sir. We're direct drive. It's a male female coupler. They're both splined, internal and external. And when that coupler goes in, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So your gear ratio is your diameter, as well as pitch, as well as rake. So rake is how far the blade leans back, and that will also, the higher the rake, the more bow lift you have. So over the years, just learning the idiosyncrasies of, how to make a boat work and be proficient. That's where I come into play, is because I've probably got the most seat time of a lot of people in the country. Just being able to give that information back to to the team to be able to help configure the boat differently. We also can adjust the skid fin. If you notice in the picture, on the left side of the boat, that little thing hanging down, that's the skid fin. Well, when you go through a corner, that's what keeps the boat tracking around instead of just skipping out a lane or two. So, you know, you can not only adjust the skid fin angle this way, but you can angle the skid fin this way, and that helps you. What you want to do is make it almost as neutral as possible. Put a little bit of pressure on the steering wheel, but not too much where it wants to drive itself. See, what else can I tell you about it? I don't want to give away all my secrets. There's a lot of things. Also, the depth on the strut, the angle that the propeller is at the back of the boat. We have adjustment there where we can either, if you bring the strut up, which is actually holds the propeller at the back of the boat, if you bring the strut up, that flattens the boat out. It helps carry more air. If you deepen the strut, it puts more angle on it and drives the nose of the boat over. So there's a lot of things that you can do to adjust the ride of the boat or the handling of the boat.
Are those adjustments needed to be made before you go out?
Yeah, there are no adjustments other than the canard wings in the front. There are no adjustments that you have at your disposal other than the canard wings.
So, describe your hands and your feet. Is your hands only steering, and then what do you adjust the cars with and the throttle with?
Well, yeah, both hands on the wheel. I wouldn't recommend driving one-handed, although some boats are easier to drive than others. 2 hands on the wheel, 10 and 2. Or if you're on a real tight race course, I'll take my right hand and put it kind of under the wheel or down on the lower part of the wheel, because that helps me as I'm turning into, and you don't have to put a lot of input into the steering wheel, especially on a big race course. If you have big wide corners, you don't have to put as much wheel into the boat to get it around the corner. But
Some guys can control the canard with the left foot pedal. You got the gas pedal, the left pedal, and other guys have buttons like electrical servers on the steering wheel. We actually have a gyro in this boat where if it gets too high, it automatically brings it back down, and a little more idiot-proof for us.
yeah, and they don't give me a lot of tools to work with because they know me. So
I'm sorry.
What are all the control surfaces? You've got canards, what else have you got?
canards, the wings, and then you have your skid fin and your rudder and your propeller and the strut depth. That's the control. But the only thing that is not fixed are the canard wings. Those will move. But everything else, you either have to adjust it, make your adjustments, tighten everything down before you go on. So it's a guessing game, or just looking at water conditions and saying, okay, this is going to be rough. You know, maybe loosen the strut up a little bit. But for the most part, I drive with my feet. I pay attention to what the boat's doing. So I don't have to make a lot of corrections other than with my foot. I'm either, really hard in the throttle or balance. If the boat's starting to get out of attitude, there are little subtle changes you can do. Just breathe the throttle a little bit. Because if you take your foot, if you're out of shape and the boat's way off the water, if you take your foot off the pedal all the way, now the inertia will take you over, and that's when you see blowovers happen. So it's a balancing act.
You mentioned that you raced against your daughter in 2008. What did she become? Did she go into mechanical engineering or something?
She's actually a trauma nurse for Children's Hospital in Columbus. But both of my daughters have driven my race boat when I had a race boat, and they were both very good drivers. Shannon started driving, that's the youngest. She started driving at 14. She started driving T-boats and then went to 2.5 stocks, which is an S class, and then was able to step up and run 2.5 liter modified. And I think that's those are the 3 classes that she had driven in, but she won her Rookie of the Year in 2008 in my boat, which was 2.5 liter modified.
So when you guys race out here, what's your best thing? You want no wind, a little bit of wind? I know you don't want a lot of wind, right?
Not a lot of wind, but a little bit of a chop. Obviously, it's pretty rough out there right now. When you see white caps, that'll beat you to death. But a little bit of wind, a little bit of breeze. And the other thing I wanted to tell you about, when you race on salt water, because of the density of salt water, your propellers are a lot more efficient. They get a lot bigger bite. Salt water's faster to race on than fresh water. And the other cool thing about it is when you go through there, it foams it up, and every lap you can see, it's like driving on a highway because you can see lanes. Wherever the boats were, you can follow. And if you had a really good fast line, try to get in that lane every time you go around the course. Any other questions?
Leonard Skinner, you're Leonard Skinner, I'm trying to figure it out. Leonard Skinner.
He kind of likes Barry Manilow.
Only because that's the song that Scott sings to me. No, again, I like all genres of music except for rap, so I'm okay with that except for rap. But I'm really partial to blues. If you're a music aficionado, I like Joe Bonamassa, so I expect one of those new CDs when he comes.
We actually
when
don't.
he come here.
We don't like have earbuds on in the pits. We don't even have great music on the motorhome. So Tom doesn't need to talk much to him. Tom's usually screaming at me in the radio, and I'm usually screaming just because I'm scared. So
But basically, it's seat time. The more you're in a race boat, and the more you become one with the boat, you get a lot more proficient at it. And 46 years of racing every year, and hitting some of the races. And some years we hit more races than others, but that's a lot of water time. So the more time you get in a boat, the more seat time you have, the better you should be at it.
Playing NASCAR, you got spotters and so on. Is there communication going between you and someone on shore?
Yes, sir. We have what they call a radio corral, and sometimes it's like here at Salina, it's always down where close to the VIP tent, or if somebody chooses, they can go out to where the judges stand is, because that's typically right on the front straightaway. You have a better vantage point there. So Mr. Newman is my spotter, and he'll do things like we always start a race on a 5-minute clock. So when that clock, they give you a countdown from like 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 1 minute, and then when you go 1 to the 5, you're sitting in the boat and you're thinking, okay, this is the lane I want to try to shoot for, or whatever. When that gun goes off, or when they tell you to leave the pits, you have 5 minutes before the start of a race. And the whole time that you're out there, you're making, and what I'll do on a course like Salina, I'll make 4 to 5 timing runs from various places around the race course to the start-finish line, because the object is when that clock hits 0, you want to be in the lane that you've chosen, sprint racing into the first corner. And typically the boat that gets into the corner first is the one that's going to dictate how the race is going to go, unless somebody else is quite a bit faster. I always use, I'll give you a lane in 1 inch if you're inside of me, and I can do it legal. That's all the room I'm going to give you. If you're outside of me and you're faster, then just drive around me.
So when you guys leave the pit, you have 5 minutes before the
race
race starts.
Yes, sir.
And
And
it's
that,
all about you timing that 5 minutes out, that you be at that start line as close as you can be in your lane when that gun goes off, right?
yeah.
So that's a lot to do right
When
there,
the-
right, to get that figured out.
And when the
right?
clock hits 0, the judges stand takes a photograph and superimposes a line across the start-finish line buoys, and they can see it on there, so they can see if the boats jump the gun. So when we're in that boat, you can't see to the front of the boat. But
you
in
don't
that
see the
picture,
sponsons.
if you're in the picture, if the front of your boat's that far across start-finish line, that's a 1-lap penalty.
And at 100, with the big boat, 160 mile an hour, you're traveling almost a football field a second. So your stuff, the analogy I use is if you take your hands and just come down in front of your face, everything that's right out in front of you is in focus. Everything out here is blurry. If you turn your head to look at something on the beach and look back and try to find it again, you've passed it. So when you're out there making your timing runs, what's unique about the way we call a flying start is you have 4 or 5 other guys that have the same thing in mind. They may be in the lane that you've made your timing runs for, so you have to adjust. And one of the things that we can do is if we know that from our timing runs, our timing marks around the different places on the race course, if I can look at my clock, and Mr. Newman has come up with a design where he's got not only a countdown clock, but I have count up timers. So, and they stay right there. If I hit a button here and I'm going to say a 12-second run from the next to the last buoy coming around the corner to the start-finish line, if I hit that buoy and I'm at, say my mark was 12 seconds and I'm at 14 seconds, better pedal it. Better get going because you're 2 seconds behind the clock when it goes off. If you're ahead of it, you take your foot off of it, 1/1000, 2/1000, go right back to it. Now you're on. And I've also lost the clock. One year we were down in Hampton, Virginia, and I lost the clock 3 different times before the start of the race. And the clock is unique with Mr. Newman made, so I can say, okay, I've lost my clock. Give me the next minute that I'm coming up to. Okay, you've got 3 minutes. So I punch the clock, 3 minutes, start the clock when he says, okay, 3, 4, 2, 1, or 4, 3, 2, 1. I hit that. Now my clock is back in sync with the clock at the starting line. So I won the Eastern Divisional Championships that year and lost the clock 3 times before the start of the race. And the guy that I was racing against was the hottest guy in the country. He jumped the gun by this much, and I was this much behind him. I won the heat, and he had jumped the gun and was assessed a 1-minute penalty. So he finished last in the race, and I finished first. It's all about timing. So and the other thing is, my wife always asks, well, why are you late for dinner if you're so good at making starts?
Because you're the one cooking it.
You know, Paul Newman was famous for his racing. Is your Mr. Newman any relation to Paul Newman?
He is. He's actually a distant cousin to the actor Paul Newman. And they both went to Kenyon College. And for those of you that knew anything about Paul Newman, he went to Kenyon College and was a benefactor to Kenyon until his death. He was always paid into, he was very much a philanthropist, same as Mr. Newman is. Okay, well listen, thank you guys for allowing us to be here. Thank you again for being a part of this community and your involvement with the lake and the race this year. Again, you guys are an integral part of what we are able to do throughout the summer. And without people such as yourselves, we can't play with our toys. So thank you again.